Hello everyone and welcome back to another installment of the Bearded Boomer Learning Tarkov. Now, this week's episode is going to be inspired by a tweet by one of the Battle States Games team members who tweeted this week. And it got me thinking that we can't really do this beginner's guide without talking about combat basics. So that is exactly what we will be doing in this episode. I also stream on Twitch, so if after this video you have any questions or you just want to come drop by and say hi, feel free to do so. We'd love to meet you. You'll find all my links down below. But without further ado, guys, let's get straight into this video about combat basics. Now let's get into this first concept of combat. I've been debating on which one is actually the most important or the best tip I can give like beginning players, but this one is huge. This one is really, really big and is really important, and it's a mistake that so many new players will make. Like, for example, let's say this tip is going to be about repeaking. So let's say we're holding this angle right here because we know from we heard a guy and we know he's on the other side of the blue container. He's behind this corner. We're holding this angle right here and we're aiming right at that point over there. Now, let's say that the guy actually peeks, he swings out, we have a first fight, we pop some shots over there. And then there's basically one of two scenarios that can happen. We can win this first engagement or we can lose this first engagement. If we lose this first engagement, what will happen is, well, we're either gonna die because we took a bullet to the face, or we're gonna be able to dip around, we're gonna be able to get back behind this corner over here, we're gonna be able to do whatever we need to do, we need to heal up and stuff like that, if we can, if the guy is not rushing us, obviously. But what a lot of new players will do is they'll hold the angle, they'll take the fight, they'll dip behind, they'll do something or do nothing, and then they re-peek it immediately. They come back around the exact same corner. Now the problem is, if the guy on the other side has won the fight, he's the one that is still... I'm gonna show you. If he wins that fight, if he's over here, and he's shooting at you, and he's hit you a couple of times, you dip behind that corner, there's a good chance that he is still holding this angle. So if you immediately re-peek the exact same spot, this guy has had the time. He was like, oh shit, I was putting shots into the thorax. What I'm going to do is I'm going to aim a little bit higher. And if he re-peeks the same corner, you come around your corner and pop. You get a bullet between the eyes. Fight's over. So do not re-peek the same spot. However, if you win the fight, you can stick around and you can be the one holding the corner. And he is now the person that is going to have to move. But if you are the one that had to dip away, I would always try and get a different angle. Like, for example, you could go back here and you could start holding this angle. The benefit here is you can start holding this angle if he comes this way. If he swings wide around, you can go like this and you're holding that angle right now because that's the other entrance that he has. If he decides to go all the way around that way, you can do this and you can just be holding that angle. But the main thing here is if you lose a fight, if you're peeking a corner, if you're taking shots at someone and you lose the fight, do not re-peek the same angle because that will more often than not will get you killed because the other guy just simply has the advantage on you. A second really big thing that I see a lot of new players do is when you're moving to a location and you're running and you're sprinting, do not go in like this. Look, I just came around this corner here. And what was happening because I was sprinting, my gun was down. And now I'm here, my gun comes up, and I'm ready to engage. However, if there's somebody in here who's holding one of these angles, and he's already hearing you because you're sprinting, so you're making a lot of noise, so they know you're coming in here, they are already aiming at the spot, and they're just gonna mow you down, and you're not gonna be able to do anything because you're still running with your gun down. So before you move into an entrance, before you go through a door, before you round the corner or anything, make sure that your gun is up and you're ready to engage an enemy. So like this, you run up to this gateway, you already quit sprinting here, your gun comes up, and then you move around the corner. Now, obviously, this is not a stop motion. You're not gonna stop, bring your gun up, and then run around the corner. You're gonna work on making that fluid. So you're basically doing this. You're sprinting, gun comes up, round the corner, boom, 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 guy's dead. Moving on. Again, same thing here. Gun comes up, rounding a corner, boom, boom, boom. Same thing here. Gun up, bump, bump, bump. But make sure that that is fluid. Make sure that that becomes your second nature to do it this way, because that is going to save you a lot of times where you're like, oh, I'm gonna start running, and then there's a guy to the left and you just got shot in the head and you're dead and you're very frustrated because you're like, oh, but I couldn't do anything. No, you could have had your gun up, you could have heard him, and you could have gone blah, 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 blah. And maybe there was a fight, and maybe you won. All right, now, combat tactics tip number 3. During fights, try to keep moving where you can. Like, a lot of the time I see newer players, they will be like, they're looting this building, they hear footsteps downstairs, they maybe hear multiple sets of footsteps, and what they'll do is, they will find a hidey hole, somewhere in here, for example, and they will just hold one angle and be holding that door the entire time. Problem is, what you've done now is you've basically essentially put yourself in a cage because you can't really get out. There's no way out of this room apart from that door, and the opposing players now can take the initiative. They can set up everything. They could have a guy holding an angle here. They could have a guy holding an angle from over there. And basically, you have given away the initiative in the fight by making the passive play, by putting your butt here and just aiming at the door and hoping that they will nicely, one by one, run in here and you get to spray them down before they kill you. Problem with that is that you've completely given away all of the initiative and they can nice and easily set up to come in and kill you. They can chuck in a flashbang here, like for example, if it's two people that are really playing well together, one of them can chuck a flashbang in here, the other one can rush in here and mow you down before you even have a chance to react. They can just set it up where they're holding the door on the outside, and the thing is, they can get out because they can decide to disengage and move away, but you can't because you're stuck in this room. So if you are a newer player and you hear footsteps, try to keep moving. Try to move around. Keep listening to the audio because that's another really big tip. Audio is super, super important in Tarkov. Constantly be listening for sounds. If you even think that you heard a sound that was not coming from your character or isn't ambient noise, most of the time it's going to be an enemy player and you're in a dangerous situation. Adapt to that. Keep moving, because if you keep moving, you keep the other guys guessing as well, because now they're gonna have to interpret audio as well. They can make mistakes. For example, if you're solo and you're up against multiple people, they are going to have to communicate about, is that you moving? Is that you running? They're losing time. And for example, you could have sprinted down these stairs around this corner, and the guy that was holding the angle over there is completely surprised, bap, 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 and he's dead. One guy down. Keep on moving. There's a guy in this room. He's now completely surprised because his teammate's dead. And he's dead as well. But keep moving. Keep people guessing, because if you're gonna bunker down, you're playing it passively and you're probably going to get destroyed for that. So keep moving and always try to keep an out. So for example, try to keep this one, and even if you get out here and you're like, shit, that was 3 guys, you are now having a shot at getting away from this engagement, taking up a better angle, looking at that door, reinterpreting whatever you're hearing, whatever you're seeing. You can maybe take down a guy that was surprised that all of a sudden you're here and you're not there anymore. So use movement to your advantage. Try to stay unpredictable. That is the main thing. Staying unpredictable is the best you can do. If you're just sitting in a corner, if you're just sitting somewhere and you're just holding something, eventually, like, you're gonna be, maybe you shuffle around a little bit and people will know where you are, and there's gonna be not too many options. They're gonna come through this door. They know that there was sound in there, so they're gonna come through the door. They're gonna check that. They're gonna check that. They're gonna check that. They're gonna check that. And you're gonna be in one of those spots and you're gonna get mowed down. If you've been moving around, they are constantly going to be paranoid. They're gonna be looking around everywhere, and there is a bigger chance of you getting the drop on someone. Moving into our next tip, guys, is knowing when to ADS and knowing when to go for hip firing. Because you're gonna have the tendency to always ADS, but in Tarkov, that is just going to punish you, because as you can see, it takes a little while for the ADS movement to be complete. Your gun destabilized and you're able to shoot exactly where you're aiming. So There's just going to be moments in time where, for example, in dorms here, if there's a scav or a player right behind this corner to the left, what you can do is you can ADS up and then move around the corner, but that is super slow. Problem with that is, if you're going to be slow on that, there's a very good chance that that person is holding an angle on you and will just destroy you. And this scav has nicely proved the point here. Sometimes you simply do not have the time. You notice somebody that's already taking aim at you, and all you can do is just spray them down from your Hipfire, like I just showed you guys. It is faster. It takes a while because, of course, in Tarkov you do not have a little pointy thing that shows you exactly where you're firing. But of course, to learn this, you could start putting some laser pointers on your gun so you have a rough idea of where you're shooting. But it's all about just using it, getting used to it, and knowing where you're shooting when you're just pointing your gun with a hipfire, because you are going to need it from time to time. Like, for example, we just saw this scav almost surprised me, but because I was able to hipfire him down, if I would have taken the time to ADS there was a very good chance that, especially in this wipe, the scav would have simply head-eyed me. And if there's one thing that I hope by now all of you beginning players have learned, being head-eyed in Tarkov is one of the least fun experiences you can have. So join our battle in trying to not get head-eyed. The scavs are really helping us out in this video here. Another nice example of a good moment to hipfire. So let's move into another tip about basic combat in Tarkov. Try to think about your engagements in Tarkov. Like, for example, I'm moving through like the wooded area on customs here. I see a guy and he takes a shot at me, and I immediately hear, or I can see, that he's using a shotgun. But let's say, for example, well, I am using an assault rifle right now, but let's say I'm even using like anything a bit more long range than that, like a DMR, something like that. Think about that. If you're gonna rush that guy, if you're gonna try to get close to him and spray him down, you're actually running into an advantage for him because he's using a shotgun, a short range weapon. So same thing goes for SMGs. They're also supposed to be stronger at shorter ranges. So if you know that the other guy is using an SMG or a shotty, try to keep your distance and take your shots from afar, because your weapon is going to be more effective against him from a range than his weapon is going to be against you. Every minor advantage in an engagement can mean the difference between life and death. So things like that, try to think about that. Same thing goes the other way around. If you're the one using the shotgun and you see a guy all the way over on those rocks at dorms over there, it's no use to start taking shots at him from here, because if you're using buckshot, you're just not going to do a lot to the guy. So what you're going to do then is you're going to try and use cover to get closer to the man. And then you're going to engage when you're in an optimal range for your gun. If you're fighting the guy with the shotgun, you're going to be moving away and trying to keep distance between you and him before taking him out. But take those kind of things, try to start thinking about that kind of thing when you're engaging into combat. I know early on in Tarkov, it's really overwhelming. Getting into a combat situation can be like, it can feel like you're just not thinking about it and you're just acting and you're just panicking. But by trying to start thinking about things like this, you will be taking away those panic levels in combat, and it will make you become smoother and more calculated in what you're doing, which is definitely the point where you want to get to. And then another thing to talk about, guys, is you'll notice that there's a lot of players out there who are going to be playing very aggressively. There's a good chance that you got into Escape from Tarkov by watching some players do some amazingly cool stuff. If you watch some of the top players in this game play it, it's going to look like this game is easy. For example, when I'm watching Landmark, I think this is not the same game that we're playing. He's playing on a completely different level. His movement is completely different, etc., etc. Now, what you need to keep in mind is that those players, they are going to be playing super aggressively. And the reason for that is that they are very good, which means that even in situations where aggression might not be the play, they'll get away with it because they are extremely good. They have between 5,000 to 10,000 hours in Tarkov, maybe even more, and they're simply able to do things that you and I, as new and beginning players in this game, will not be able to. Problem is, if that is what you're seeing, if that is what you think is how you should play Tarkov, and you're gonna try to mimic that, you're just not gonna have what it takes to pull off that playstyle. So, aggression, while a lot of people think that it is always the solution in Tarkov, really isn't always the solution. Especially not in 12.12 with the addition of inertia. A lot of the gunfights are more slow-paced, are slower. You're not constantly jumping out of windows and jiggle peeking everything. You're gonna have to be more tactical about it. Sometimes you're gonna have to know when to hold an angle. Sometimes you're gonna have to know when to push. Aggression is still your friend, and aggression can be the right play, but you need to use it well in the right kind of situation. Mindless aggression will never be the solution. Unless you're extremely good. If you're extremely good, you're not watching this video. Move along, shoot whoever you want in the face. But mindless aggression is going to get you killed more often than not. So try to be calculated with your aggression. Try to use it at the right time. For example, if you have the drop on somebody, you put a couple shots in and they're trying to retreat, that's when you get aggressive. That's when you push them. At least if you know that they don't have teammates who are holding a crossfire or something like that. But if you hurt someone, they're trying to retreat, that's when you push. That's when you engage. That's when you're aggressive and you're going on the charge. However, if you're the one basically stuck in a bad spot, and there's multiple people that have a crossfire on you, rushing out of that door is not going to lead anywhere except for a quick return to the login screen. So think about your aggression, time it, and do not think that this is Call of Duty. It's not. It really isn't. It's not as fast-paced as Call of Duty. Don't try to play it like Call of Duty. You won't get happy with that. Trust me. And now that we've also mildly touched on the subject of inertia, it's time that we think about what our weight does to our movements. You've noticed that if you're wearing a big backpack and you've got a lot of loot in your backpack, your character is going to move around more sluggishly. It's going to affect your stamina drain, it's going to affect how fast you can run, it's going to affect a lot of things, and if you want to be mobile and you want to be able to quickly maneuver yourself into different positions during combat, weight is going to affect that. So if you had a very successful raid and you are completely filled up on loot, your backpack is hella full, but there's somebody engaging you towards the end of the fight, consider dropping your backpack on the floor. Throw that backpack down, maybe even put a keybind where you just instantly drop your backpack, do the fight, and if you survive, you get to pick up your backpack. If you don't survive, well, yeah, you weren't gonna get your loot anyway. But dropping that backpack in that fight is going to increase your chances of surviving because you're gonna be able to move better, faster, quicker, and you're gonna be able to more easily get the drop on someone. Because if you're a slow slug with a lot of loot on you, you're just gonna be a sitting duck for the other players trying to shoot you down. So, as a new player, that is probably not something you've thought about yet, but keep it in the back of your mind. Maybe keybind it to a button that you can easily reach on your keyboard, and if you're loaded up with loot and somebody starts shooting at you, quickly tap the button, drop your backpack, engage in the fight, kill the other guy, grab your backpack, get out. Now, I've already touched on audio somewhere in this video, but audio really is the most important thing in Tarkov. So make sure that you have basically your headset as loud as you can bear it, because the most important things are going to be the quiet things, like the small little shuffles of feet, the little rustles of bushes, the footsteps. Those are going to be the things that are going to tell you where a player is, and where you're going to need to be looking to engage next. Problem with that is if you turn up your volume really loud, gunshots are going to be really loud and they are going to be potentially a little bit painful for your ears. However, there are a couple of ways that you can deal with that. However, that goes into like installing a compressor on your audio. There are guides about that on the internet, so if you guys want me to make a guide about that, just let me know down in the comments. I'd be happy to show you guys how you can do that. But yeah, audio, recognizing audio, recognizing footsteps, getting a feel for how far a certain sound is away from you, getting a feel from directionally where that audio is. Also, along with that, getting to know the maps. And for example, when I'm standing in dorms and I hear a footstep on wood, I want to be able to know where that footstep is coming from. If I hear a footstep on metal, I want to know, oh yeah, that's those stairs over there, so I need to look over there to shoot this guy. Stuff like that. But really, audio. Tarkov is not a game that you want to play with some extra music on while you're watching Netflix. Don't do it. You're not going to enjoy Tarkov with extra audio, trust me. And also, because the directional audio in Tarkov is really important, I don't know who needs to hear this, but put your headset on the right way. Right ear cup on your right ear, left ear cup on your left ear. You think I'm joking, but I've heard people do this, and they were like, I heard a guy to my left, and then they get shot from the right. Put your headset on the right way, guys. Now let's talk about a super important concept in Tarkov, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about peeking. Now, we've already been peeking. I've already showed you this earlier when we were holding angles and stuff like that, but there's something we have not mentioned yet, and that is the enormous difference there is between left shoulder peeking and right shoulder peeking, and why it is so goddamn important to only try and ever peek with your right shoulder. So what I mean by that is leaning to the right. Basically, this maneuver right here, where I'm standing at a corner and I'm peeking around and I'm using it leaning to the right. When you do this and you're aiming at someone over there, they will only see a very, very small part of your model. They're gonna see a little bit of your shoulder, they're gonna see your head peeking out, and they're gonna see your gun coming around the corner, shooting at them. That is super strong. However, if we turn this around and we're peeking left side, now what the person you're looking at is seeing is like your entire arm, your head, a large part of your torso, because we're carrying our gun on the right side of our body. We're right-handed wielding it. So what happens is, if we want to get this gun around this corner to be able to shoot, we're just showing so much more of ourselves, and we are at a huge disadvantage. The guy that is in the position to be right-sided leaning is always going to be in a huge advantage over the guy left-side leaning. That, combined with the fact that Tarkov does struggle from desync from time to time, is a killer combination. So please put this in your mind, engrave this into your brains. Try to never, ever peek left side. Think about where you are. Think about how I'm coming around this corner, right? Okay, so I don't want to left side peek this like that, because I know that there's a guy over there. Okay, so what can I do? I can decide I can go for a sprint, try to sprint across and hopefully not get shot. And now I'm here, and now all of a sudden I have a right side peek and I have way more cover. I'm in a way better shape. My other option here is I'm just gonna go around. I'm just gonna sprint all the way over here. I'm gonna grab this corner, right side peek, bop, 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 and we're gonna try and mow that person down. Now, of course, there are going to be situations where you're gonna have no other option than to peek with your left shoulder. Try to minimize those. Try to do that the least amount possible, and always try to go for the right shoulder peek. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is when and how to use your meds. Because let's say that we've just been in a fight, we killed someone over there in that bush. They did fire on us. We did get hit. We're pretty hurt. We've lost a limb. We were bleeding. We just need to heal up. Consider when you use your meds, because like I just shot a guy in that bush over there. Now I'm sitting here, I'm wounded. If I just start patching myself up right here, what is going to happen is I just made a lot of noise because I shot a guy. Maybe somebody heard the guy die over there. So people around here are gonna be like, I want to go see if I can find some loot over there. So if I just sit in the exact spot that I shot a person from, and I start patching myself up, and maybe I'm in the middle of surgery, maybe I'm trying to sew an arm back on and stuff like that, and somebody else peeks around that corner, I'm gonna be in trouble. So what you do is you win your fight, and then you check your surroundings, you make sure nobody else is near, you disengage to a safe distance, you find a little hidey hole, and that is where you use your meds. That is where you're gonna patch yourself up. That's where you're gonna heal. Now, of course, this is speaking from a situation where the fight is already over. Med usage during gunfights in Tarkov is probably even more important, and the reason for that is if you're in the middle of an engagement, like, oh, I'm shooting a guy over there, so he's hit me up, and I know that I fluffed all of my shots. If I start healing right now, that guy, if he's a good player, he's gonna know I hit him. I'm pretty okay. So what he's gonna do is he's just gonna sprint at me. He's gonna round this corner and gonna be like brap, and he's gonna finish me off. If I'm standing here and I'm just trying to heal what he did in the previous engagement, he's gonna come around this corner. I'm gonna be here patching up my arm with my hand in my Salewa and be like, oh hi sir, and then I'm dead. So be aware of when to use it. Now, in that same engagement, if you're the one, if you basically had an even trade and he fucked you up and you fucked him up, there's a good chance that you'll have time to like stop your heavy bleed, maybe stop a light bleed or whatever is going on, because those are the most important things to fix in the middle of a fight. Heavy bleeds will kill you pretty quickly. If the fight is long and drawn out, then a light bleed might also do a lot of damage. So the main things in the heat of combat, what I would try to stop are bleeds. Other things, not so much. Another thing here that is always interesting to have, I have it in an injector case, but you don't necessarily need to have it. If you have some Propital available and you're bleeding all over the place and all of your limbs are hit and your character's just looking all yellow red, it's always a good chance, just pop one of these in the middle of combat, get some of that healing going, get that going while you're moving around, while you're repositioning, while you're trying to get shots off, while you're trying to finish the fight or disengage or whatever. But in moments like this, when you're still in the middle of a fight, I mean, this is like logic itself. When you're in the middle of a fight, do not go into surgery. Don't do whatever long this is. It's 20 seconds. Like, don't start sewing on a limb when you're still in the middle of combat. It makes total sense, yet because it is a game mechanic, people do it. But just consider yourself in a real life combat situation. You're not going to do that while you're still in the gunfight. You're going to finish the gunfight first. You're going to secure your area, and then you're going to patch yourself up. So do the same thing in Tarkov. That's going to be it for this guide, for this week's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you learned something from this guide, if this was useful to you, please leave a like, leave a comment down below. Consider subscribing to the channel because I plan on putting out a lot of content this year, and every sub keeps the channel growing, which helps us out a ton. Remember, I also stream on Twitch 4 days a week. Links are all down below, so you can easily find us, and I will see you guys in the next video next week. For now, stay safe. Bye-bye.